The United States is the #1 military power in the world. But the surprising thing is that despite having the best military capability, America still cannot seem to win wars. In long wars like Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan, it spent enormous amounts of money and carried out massive military operations, yet in the end, it still had to retreat with its tail between its legs. More recently, even in the war with Iran, America failed to achieve any of its goals. That is why this, too, is being seen as a major failure for the United States. In this episode, we will discuss why America, despite having the most powerful military and the most advanced defense equipment in the world, keeps failing to win its wars. America does not suddenly start its unjust wars. Before a war begins, it spends a long time building a political propaganda narrative that makes the war appear justified and necessary to the world. There is a specific pattern to how this narrative is built. First, a country or region is presented as a threat to global security. Then that threat is exaggerated and amplified in the global media. After that, people are told that there is no other option except the use of force. In this way, step by step, a situation is created in which once the war begins, it is no longer presented as aggression. Instead, it is promoted as a measure to protect the security of America, or even the security of the world. During the Cold War, the center of U.S. war policy was the war on communism. Whenever a socialist or left-wing movement appeared anywhere in the world, it was presented as Soviet influence, and intervention followed. The Vietnam War was the biggest example of this policy. After the fall of the Soviet Union, a new narrative emerged, the War on Terror. After 2001, long wars were fought in Afghanistan and Iraq under the cover of that narrative. The Iraq War was launched on the claim that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, but later, no trace of those weapons was ever found. After that, America brought forward another narrative called the War on Drugs. Through this, it expanded its political and military influence in different countries across Latin America. Although it was presented as an anti-drug campaign, in many cases it became the main tool for interfering in regional politics. Later, in the name of security and stability in the Middle East, Iran was presented as a global threat. Iran's nuclear program and regional influence were portrayed as a major danger to the world. Together with Israel, the world's biggest terrorist state, America moved aggressively to suppress Iran. But history shows that these powerful American narratives have never brought the desired results in real war. America became deeply involved in the Vietnam War because it wanted to stop communism across the world. In Vietnam, an independence movement led by Ho Chi Minh was fighting against French rule. But America did not present it as a struggle for independence. Instead, it began portraying it as an expansion of communism. That is why it supported the weak and unpopular government of South Vietnam and sent huge amounts of weapons and troops there. The Vietnam War lasted from 1955 to 1975, nearly 20 years. In this war, the United States spent a total of $168 billion, which in today's value would be more than $1 trillion. In terms of human cost, around 58,000 U.S. troops were killed and more than 300,000 were wounded. Even after suffering such a humiliating defeat in Vietnam, America still does not want to admit it. In 2003, America's main justification for attacking Iraq was that Saddam Hussein was supposedly developing weapons of mass destruction, and this was a major threat to global security. But after the war, it became clear that those weapons never existed. According to analysts, the real goal of the Iraq War was to expand America's influence in the Middle East and plunder its oil resources. At the start of the war, the Iraqi army collapsed quickly, and Saddam's government fell with the capture of Baghdad.
But from that point on, the war moved beyond America's calculations. The Iraq War began in 2003, and America's direct military presence there ended in 2011. That means the United States fought a direct war in Iraq for nearly 8 years. There are different estimates of how much America spent in this war. If you combine the direct war spending and related costs, the total is put at around $2 trillion or more. And if long-term costs, such as medical treatment for wounded soldiers and interest on war debt are included, the amount could go beyond $3 trillion. In terms of human cost, around 4,500 U.S. troops were killed and more than 20,000 were wounded. Even after suffering such a humiliating defeat in Afghanistan, America still does not want to admit it. On February 28, 2026, America launched yet another war in the Middle East. The United States and Israel jointly carried out massive air and missile strikes on Iran and killed Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, completely changing the politics of the region. After this attack, Iran responded quickly by launching hundreds of drones and ballistic missiles towards Israel, U.S. bases in the Gulf region, and countries allied with America. For years, the Arab states of the Middle East saw America as their shield of defense, but because American bases were on their soil, they themselves became targets of Iranian attacks. The impact of the war with Iran was not limited to the military sphere. Because Iran shut down the Strait of Hormuz, the artery of the world's oil supply, there was widespread global criticism of America's flawed policy. That is because in this war, America became disoriented, made one mistake after another, and kept changing its objectives. Before the war began, America said its goal was regime change in Iran. But after killing Khamenei, when that still brought no success, it said its goal was to destroy Iran's nuclear capacity. Yet just 1 year ago, America had claimed that it had already completely destroyed Iran's nuclear capacity. As Iranian missiles kept striking U.S. bases across the Middle East, Donald Trump claimed that America had won the war with Iran. The very next day, he again said that Iran had to surrender unconditionally. And yet America itself kept proposing a ceasefire to Iran. On the other hand, despite suffering severe damage, Iran still wanted to continue the war. Taken together, the war with Iran turned America's defense strategy into a laughingstock. At the same time, in just 1 week, it had already become the most expensive war in U.S. history. In the first 100 hours of the war, America spent around $3.7 billion. In the first week alone, the cost rose to around $11.3 billion. Beyond that, America was spending at least $1 billion every single day. On top of that, with multi-billion-dollar defense equipment destroyed at its bases across the Middle East, with advanced military aircraft lost, and with huge spending on air defense systems, the cost of this war could exceed $100 billion in a very short time. No matter where this war goes from here, America has already lost at the very beginning, because its main objective was the fall of Iran's government. Instead, after Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, an even hardline government came to power in Iran under the leadership of his son, Mujtaba Ali Khamenei. America may spend enormous amounts of money to wage these wars, and the country itself may suffer because of them, but in the end, only 5 American companies profit from it.